Sup, ballers? Today's top story, Out of the Park 22 finally drops, and now I can finally provide you that wholesome Christian entertainment that you so crave. Wait, that was a joke. Don't. For those of you who don't know, Out of the Park is a baseball spreadsheet simulator that allows the player to pretend they can manage a professional baseball team better than actual front office personnel. Unfortunately, I happen to be a Colorado Rockies fan, which means we will be assuming the role of GM of the organization. Because the team has been run by Jeff Bridich, we don't really need to pretend. If you are a Rockies fan, and chances are you are not, then you are keenly aware of the problems plaguing the Rockies and can articulate them without saying the word Coors. But if you're on the outside, then chances are all you know is that Nolan Arenado is a Cardinal now. So for those of you not in the know, I will give you a brief synopsis on how bad of a general manager Jeff Bridich has been throughout his tenure. Are you ready for this? Entering his 7th year as general manager, the most successful free agent signing that Jeff Bridich has made was for Mark Reynolds, a career .236 hitter who led the league in strikeouts 4 consecutive seasons. You'd think at some point he would have just fallen ass backwards into a good free agent signing. Suffice to say, our annual Rockies run will be even harder than in years past, as we have virtually no good players beyond Trevor Story and like 2 prospects. At least Ian Desmond opted out. To start off, here are the manager options and strategy I will be employing for this run. I will be releasing a video at some point explaining my method, so keep an eye out for that. As far as personnel, Out of the Park actually has some new coaching mechanics that I'm still getting used to, but for now, here is my staff, and yes, I absolutely fired Jeff Bridich.
You had to do that, man. You guys not gonna learn otherwise.
Naturally, we are going to have to make some trades. The first is with the Braves sending Trevor Story and John Gray for Max Fried, Sean Newcomb, and 3 minor leaguers. Story was our best bargaining chip, and I was relatively happy with the return. Next up is a trade with the Padres, who send Jurickson Profar, retaining 35%, and 2 minor leaguers for Sam Hilliard, Raimel Tapia, and a minor leaguer. Profar can play several positions and has an above-average bat, so I'm quite happy. The Rangers agree to trade Isaiah Kiner Falefa, retaining 35% for Garrett Hampson and Elias Diaz. Like Profar, IKF can play several positions, including catcher, and I value versatility.
Get out of the booth, take all your clothes off, and fold yourself 12 times.
You got it.
6 folds, huh?
We make a deal with the Astros, sending Dom Nunez, Ben Bowden, and Austin Gomber for Martin Maldonado and 2 minor leaguers. I just traded away the best player the Rockies received in the Nolan Arenado trade like he was nothing. Because he is nothing. At least in terms of baseball value. I'm sure he's probably a nice guy. We have an agreement with the Red Sox, sending Robert Stevenson, Jairo Diaz, and a minor leaguer for Nathan Eovaldi and 2 minor leaguers. I'm not big on Eovaldi because of injury proneness issues, but should otherwise be fine in the short term. Another trade, this time with the Mariners, who send Tom Murphy, Aaron Fletcher, and a minor leaguer for Antonio Santos, Ryan McMahon, and 2 minor leaguers. I will never understand why the Rockies gave away Tom Murphy for nothing when we so obviously needed a catcher. Last trade for now is with the Cubs, sending Nolan Arenado's cousin Josh Fuentes and Ryan Valade for Jake Marisnick and a minor leaguer. Let's just take a moment to think about Josh Fuentes' situation right now. You're 28 years old and just started your career in the bigs. Your superstar cousin, who is on the same team, is traded in dramatic fashion, drenched in bad blood. How do you play for a team that disrespected your family so badly they paid $50 million to end the relationship? You can hire a hitman for less money. Seriously, $50 million is fuck you money. I'm honestly doing him a fucking favor, sending him to the Cubs. He can play against Nolan all the time, maybe rekindle some of that childhood wonder that draws everyone to baseball. Except for us out of the park nerds who would not like baseball if it weren't for the math. After some moves to fill the roster, these are the pitching assignments and lineup that I'm left with. We will not be winning many ball games this season. As is the usual tradition, I play the opening day game, and here is the lineup that I went with. I generally play these games as a form of bullpen management and not necessarily to win. Now that I've lowered your expectations, we were well behind the 8 ball when Jimmy Herron pinch hit this 2-run home run to get us back in the game, but sadly we're not able to complete the comeback as we go down to the Dodgers 10-8. The fact that we were even that close at the end is rather remarkable. Shortly after, Antonio Senzatella is out for a week and I call up Yency Almonte in his place. These are my new pitching assignments. I make a trade with the Mets, who I loathe with every fiber of my being, sending Max Fried, CJ Cron, and a minor leaguer for Pete Alonso and 2 minor leaguers. Not only am I getting an elite first baseman at the league minimum, but the 2 minor leaguers are pretty good as well. To make this trade work, I call up Tyler Ivey. These are my new pitching assignments, as well as my lineup. Brendan Rodgers is no longer injured and is sent on a rehab assignment. We make it to May having absolutely sucked ass, earning a 9-17 record, a .346 win percentage, and are comfortably in last place in the division. I think we all knew this was going to happen. These are my pitching stats, as well as my batting stats. I make a trade with the Cardinals, sending Carlos Estevez and a minor leaguer for Andrew Miller and a minor leaguer. At least Nolan Arenado will know somebody on the team. These are my new pitching assignments. Antonio Senzatella is no longer injured and is sent on a rehab assignment. Tyler Ivey is out for 6 weeks, and I take the opportunity to call up Senza and Brendan Rodgers, as well as DFAing Max George. These are my new pitching assignments, as well as my lineup. Chris Owings is out for 5 weeks, and I call up Connor Joe in his place. Yes, that Connor Joe of perfect Team Iron Tournament infamy. He plays for the Rockies now. That's how bad they are. This is my new lineup. We reached June having stayed steady with a 19-35 record, a .352 win percentage, and are still in the basement. This is going to be a long season, I can tell. These are my pitching stats, as well as my batting stats. I make another trade with the Cardinals, sending Scott Oberg, Tom Murphy, and a minor leaguer for 2 minor leaguers. I was concerned that Nolan might not be fitting in with the new crowd, but really I was interested in one of those minor leaguers, Genesis Cabrera. His stats aren't impressive, but he's ranked quite highly on the prospect list, and I figure I could flip him for something more beneficial later on. To make this trade work, I call up Riley Gilliam and William Contreras. These are my new pitching assignments, as well as my lineup. IKF is out for 1 to 2 weeks, and I call up Max George in his place. This is my new lineup. Nathan Eovaldi is out for 2 weeks. Here we go with the Eovaldi injuries. I call up Jesus Tinoco in his place. These are my new pitching assignments. And Kyle Freeland is out for 9 months.
Help me. Because I don't even know what to do anymore.
I call up Genesis Cabrera, even though I never had intention of using him previously. These are my new pitching assignments. Chris Owings is no longer injured and is sent on a rehab assignment. Very shortly after, IKF is also no longer injured and is then sent on a rehab assignment. And right behind them is Tyler Ivey, who is also sent on a rehab assignment. We enter July having completed construction on the garbage fire with a 28-53 record, a .346 win percentage, and are still last in the division. At this point, my hope is that we can avoid a 100-loss season, but I'm not optimistic. These are my pitching stats, as well as my batting stats. I make a trade with the Nats, sending Michael Givens, Martin Maldonado, and 3 minor leaguers for Patrick Corbin, retaining 35% and a minor leaguer. I don't know if Corbin will play at Coors, but with the discount on his contract, I should be able to flip him. To make this trade work, I call up Julio Rodriguez. Fun tidbit, if you say that last part really fast, you'll say Julio Rodriguez. You have no idea how many times I said Julio Rodriguez when trying to narrate this. These are my new pitching assignments, as well as my lineup. Nathan Eovaldi is no longer injured and is sent on a rehab assignment. Mid-season goals time, and the owner is ecstatic with my performance. I'm glad he's not angry, but I already had the perfect defense lined up.
It was like that when I got here.
Jesus Tinoco is out for 3 months. I call up Tyler Ivey from his rehab assignment. These are my new pitching assignments. Chris Owings is finished with his rehab assignment, and I DFA Max George to make room on the roster. This is my new lineup. Draft time, and we have the 7th pick overall, and we drop some heavy coin as our first round pick gets $9 million and my second round gets 5. If I'm not careful, our cheap ass owner will have me fired with a huge severance package. IKF is ready to come back from his rehab assignment, and I DFA Connor Joe to make room on the roster. This is my new lineup. I make a couple of trades, the first with the Angels, who send Anthony Rendon, retaining 30%, and a minor leaguer for Genesis Cabrera, Daniel Bard, Jordan Sheffield, and a minor leaguer. This was kind of a big haul for the Angels, but we have officially replaced Nolan Arenado. The next trade is with the Mariners, sending Chris Owings and a minor leaguer for Kendall Graveman and a minor leaguer. And taking a look at Graveman's stats, he's overall an okay pitcher that I traded for just to get through the season. He's also pretty inexpensive, so the owner will like that. To make these trades work, I bring up Nathan Eovaldi and Daysbel Hernandez to the Major League roster. These are my new pitching assignments, as well as my lineup. And finally, one last trade for the season, this time with San Diego, sending German Marquez, Antonio Senzatella, and 2 minor leaguers for Blake Snell and 4 minor leaguers. I'm very happy to get Snell, and the minor leaguers should help provide some depth. To make this trade work, I call up Tommy Doyle. These are my new pitching assignments. We make it to August, still getting clobbered to a 33-72 record, a 314 win percentage, very much last in the division. As painful as this has been to watch, I promise it was twice as much so on my end. These are my pitching stats, as well as my batting stats. I make no roster moves at this time. As per the usual tradition, we play the game after the trade deadline, and here is the lineup that I went with. There wasn't a tremendous amount of offense on either end. In fact, in a reverse Cavicom, we actually scored one of our 3 runs on a balk. On a fucking balk! The other 2 runs were this jack from Pete Alonso in the top of the 7th, but we couldn't hold on and lose this one to San Diego 4-3. At this point, it really just doesn't matter. You might be wondering what my long-term plan is with this team. After all, I've shuffled the entire roster and we're doing horribly. The main issue for this team is naturally pitching, and unfortunately free agent signings are a gamble and a half. To combat this, I plan on acquiring pitchers through free agency, Rule 5, and trading for players who are about a year away from cracking a major league roster. The rebuild should take about 3 years, after which we should have a lengthy competitive window and hopefully win a few World Series. Nobody's talking to you! Shortly after, Julio Rodriguez is out for 8 months, which sucks because I have no depth at catcher. I call up Brian Servin in his place. This is my new lineup. Chuck Nasty is out for 6 weeks, or basically the rest of the season. I call up Khalil Lee in his place. This is my new lineup. And what has now become an alarming trend, we have another injury, this time to Jimmy Herron, who is out for 2 weeks. I call up Marcus Wilson in his place. This is my new lineup. We finally make it to September and are still doing very, very badly. We're now at 45-87, a 341 win percentage, and are still last in the division. We are currently on track to have the worst record in Rockies history. These are my pitching stats, as well as my batting stats. For roster expansion, I call up Jordan Guerrero and Max George. These are my new pitching assignments, as well as my lineup. Jimmy Herron is no longer injured, and I decide to send him back to the minors. Jesus Tinoco is no longer injured, and I decide to DFA him. He wasn't claimed and ends up back in AAA. We end the season having played 500 ball in September, finishing with a 60-102 record, a 370 win percentage, our last in the division, and have the second worst record in baseball. However, in a continuing trend from previous versions of this game, the fact that we did so well in the last month of the season is encouraging. These are my pitching stats to end the season, as well as my batting stats. I tried to pick a good player at the end of the season, but the one that stuck out was Jonathan Daza. He did reasonably well with a 330 average and 3.5 wins above replacement, but what's shocking about it is that he was a minor leaguer I added to the roster purely out of necessity. If I had a full outfield, we would never have seen these stats. As far as who won the World Series, of course, it had to be the fucking Mets. Fuck you, game. To end the season, Chuck Nasty opts into the remainder of his contract, so he'll be sticking around for at least another season. And despite having set the franchise record in futility, the owner is good with my performance. This game reminds me too much of my job at this point. My boss would love to get rid of me, but can't do it without having to then assume the workload that I have. So until they can find a replacement, they tell me that I'm doing a good job to try to cover up their resentment towards me. If you're disappointed with the end result of this season, do not worry. This will be an ongoing series, so be sure to subscribe to this channel to make sure that you are notified when the next video drops. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitch where I stream Out of the Park on Fridays. Link is in the description. And since I have brought up Twitch, we'll end this episode with a clip of me exploiting crappy programming. Here you go.
9, 10, 11.
What's gonna happen here? Uh-oh.
13, 14,
Look at this. It just follows me.
16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Count out.
I knew that was something you could do.